Bayern in the Bundesliga. Well, we know there are lots of reasons why we are looking particularly at Bayern this season, not least because of last season, not least because now they've got Vincent Kompany as a coach. But also, look at their opening matches. So far, they were down 2-1 on the opening day against Wolfsburg, come back and managed to win the game because of one particular player. Thomas Müller, who's been there since, well, donkey's years, hasn't he?
Well, yeah, as if to underline that, he was making his club record equaling appearance for Bayern at the weekend. His 709th appearance for Bayern.
That is mad.
Which equals Sepp Maier. Sepp Maier, who, of course, was not an outfield player. A record that you thought would kind of stand forever. I mean, it stood for like 45 years. And... yes, it's pretty special. And the fact that he's embraced a slightly different role as well, that he's got no ego about coming on and making an impact, which he did. You know, he came on within seconds, helped force an own goal, and then he was at the genesis of the move that led to Harry Kane setting up the winner for Serge Gnabry. So the way he affects everything around him, his energy, his attitude, it's almost as if he's embraced a role where he doesn't start all the time as an opportunity rather than an impediment. And there are so few players who are of that sort of standing who are able to do that. Now, of course, like Germany are moving into a new era, so maybe this gives him a little bit more time on the clock as well. But I can't help think, you talked about Kompany there. I think the fact that he needs to make this team younger, which he is doing, but that means by turn that he's also going to lean really heavily on his most experienced players. And this was Müller saying very early on in the first Bundesliga game of the season, boss, you can rely on me.
Andy, they could have lost, they could have drawn, but they won. Who famously said that?
Well, you wouldn't think it was the Bayern manager, would you? But it bloody was. That's what Vincent Kompany came out with. And that, to me, is amazing. Because I guess Thomas Tuchel has taken it a little bit away from this with his like constant, I don't know what is going on in press conferences. But for the Bayern coach, who's meant to emit such authority, to come out with, well, yeah, we could have had any result, but we ended up winning. That's not a very Bayern coach thing to come out with as well. Now, maybe his transparency is like talking about, you know, a new, more open era of Bayern. Maybe it's a recognition that Bayern these days are quite chaotic. So you should simply lean onto it. And maybe, Lars, if we're talking about Bayern being chaotic, as they have been upstairs and downstairs for the last couple of years, maybe that's what makes Kompany the perfect appointment.
I mean, maybe. He's an interesting guy, Kompany. I'm sure you'll obviously all have seen the clip of his training ground session at Burnley, where he was basically going off on one and shouting at his players for being too negative. That had a big sort of, the beatings will continue until morale improves vibe to it. So something about a coach going completely off his head and telling everyone, you're too negative all the time. You bunch of morons. That's not exactly what he said, but yeah, it was a strange vibe. I don't know. It's a huge job for him, and I think the point about this game is they did win, and that was very important. I tend to think sort of process over result often, but this was definitely a case of result over process, because everyone knows he was like the 6th or 7th choice for the job, if that. So if you then start badly, then really that's not a good spot to be in. And they very nearly did. It did look... It was a game that made me feel like not a lot of lessons have been learned here, in the sense that they created a fair bit of chances, Bayern. But you expect that with that lineup. Like when you got Musiala and Michael Olise and Kane, oh my... This is a front line that'll create chances against anyone. But they don't seem to control games very well. Now, Joshua Kimmich was restored to midfield here, playing next to Pavlovic. And I thought they looked okay in possession, but a little bit too open when they lost it. I suppose that is what Joao Palhinha is meant to add. He's had to backstop that midfield when he plays. He was on the bench now. Kim Min-jae restored in defense after also didn't always do very well. He's continuing to be a slightly problematic acquisition for the club. So I feel like there was a lot of like, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. You know, this could have been a Bayern game of last season, where like the attacking talent in the team will carry them through a lot. But the problems that Tuchel had in terms of adding defensive solidity, those problems are like, he had definitely diagnosed the problem accurately, Tuchel. He just wasn't able to find the cure. Maybe Joao Palhinha is the cure. We will see when he gets on the field. But the 3 points were important. The performance was like, yeah, we've seen this before from Bayern. The situation has not been resolved.
That's it, and they always win at Wolfsburg as well. That's the other thing, isn't it? But Lars is right. I think I can't quite work out whether Kim Min-jae and Dio Upamecano look bad because they're exposed by the midfield, or are just continually playing poorly. I mean, the way that they played at the weekend, I don't see how you can ask Kompany to sort out the defence when he's got two centre-backs who are playing like that. And, of course, they sold De Ligt, who, you know, you could argue has got the potential to be better than either of them because they needed to for financial reasons, of course. I don't think he did anything terribly wrong in the time he was there. Clearly, in terms of the structure of the team, something needs to change. But to put it all on one player, however good Palhinha is a massive risk. I mean, that's what PSG tried to do at the start of last season with Manuel Ugarte, and then, of course, they worked out that he couldn't really pass the ball that well, which is not great for a possession-focused team. So they decided they were out on him. So there's a lot of questions still of them without the ball, and there is nothing really to suggest from Kompany's coaching career, even if you take the high points of Burnley in the Championship, to suggest that he's necessarily the guy to sort that out.
It's also another issue here, which is like I've said, just put Palhinha in and it'll be solid. Like, who do you put him in for? Is also the question here, because Kimmich has been restored to midfield, which is where he wants to be. And Pavlovic is kind of the young, exciting youth academy product, and it's important for Bayern ideologically and for their club identity to have some sort of production line from the academy. They're a club that really values that. So I think either dumping Kimmich back to right back where he doesn't want to be really, or dropping Pavlovic back to the bench, those are not going to be neither of that's going to be a popular decision. And you have so many good attacking players, you kind of want to keep all of them on the field. So it's not just as if you just chuck Palhinha in there and everything works. You have to figure out how you get him in and in what manner that's supposed to work.
To what extent, though, has the Bundesliga outcome of last season hanging over Bayern Munich's season this time around, with Bayern Leverkusen winning the league?
It is a bit. And I think the fact that they scored a 101st minute winner on Friday night in the first game was like a bit, we're going to do it to you all over again. Let's see what you got, because we're just going to be exactly the same as they are last season. Because if you look points-wise, clearly Bayern need to improve. But points-wise, they didn't do terribly last season. It could have been better, but it was a better points total than the season before when they won the league. So you're right, it has to be about their improvement. But of course, you're improving or trying to improve in a situation where there is absolutely no margin for error. Now, you could argue that there's absolutely no margin for error at Bayern anyway, but I think as you've touched upon before, we talked about Müller at the top. Having Neuer there, able to concentrate on just Bayern, now he's retired from the international team, it feels like they should be able to get another couple of good years out of him. And Neuer is such presence. I mean, he has kind of saved them on a number of occasions over the last couple of years. And again, I think Kompany is going to need to lean heavily on him and on Müller if they're going to bring this new generation through.